Welcome into the Off-Brand Sports Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Lakers as well as the Toronto Maple Leafs. So some pretty high-profile teams this time. But before we do that, we're going to talk sports news. So really, the biggest thing going on is this week is opening day. So we're going to have some baseball going on. Shortly after, we're going to have some basketball and hockey. We're going to have all kinds of things happening. But what do you guys want to talk about first?
Well, MLB has had some exhibitions.
Yeah, that's exciting.
They've had some exhibition games.
Just looking on TV the other day and I saw them on there. I was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
I kind of had no idea there was MLB exhibitions going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been playing some games. We get to actually, watch stuff happen. It's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah, just watching, Bryce Harper hit home runs again is nice.
Yeah, and
his flow's looking sick.
Yeah, his flow's really looking nice.
He's absolutely letting her out.
Luscious. But
definitely, yeah, it's nice to turn on the TV and see that the sports are not like Korean or Japanese or European. It's like, wait, this is a sport happening in the United States.
Right.
This is something.
It's even kind of
nice.
That
could be why I've been so into the MLS lately, because it's one of the only sports going on in the States.
Yeah, golf's going on.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Or team sports, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. But other than that, dude, training camps just going on in the NBA and in the NHL. When is the NHL supposed to leave for their hub cities? Sometime this week, right?
I know the Avs play an exhibition game in 10 days. Mm-hmm. So here soon. I think a few days before that. So I would guess the 25th-ish. But I feel like I could look that up.
Yeah. Rogers Center, one of the NHL's hub cities, looked like it had some serious flooding issues, but they said it shouldn't impact anything, so that's good news.
Yeah, I saw there was no structural damage, so that's really good for the NHL and Rogers Place and the Edmonton Oilers. And
that's a really nice arena. It's brand new too.
It is.
So it kind of sucks.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 4 years old.
It is kind of funny that it would be when we desperately need that arena that it would that it would flood. Yeah. It'd be like, oh, of course that would happen. It makes sense.
Exactly. But I don't think anything that's impacted any of the NHL's plans on going there or whatnot. One piece of news that came out from the MLB is the Canadian government did not grant the Toronto Blue Jays access to play in their home stadium this year. So there are
they have to find somewhere to go.
Yeah, there are some second options that they're looking at. I think one of them is in Buffalo, where their AAA affiliate plays, and then one is their spring training facility in Florida. But as a player, on that team, it kind of sucks because you'd have to spend a couple months, outside of your home, kind of doing what the NBA and NHL is doing. Whereas, in, other cities, they can actually go home and, sleep in their beds and do all that. But,
right.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do, really?
Yeah, you touched on this a little bit last night, Marshall. It's not so much a big deal that Canada doesn't want to travel in and out of their country. It's more of a big deal that they gave them 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah.
And that's just not acceptable.
Dude, yeah, less than that. It's they start up this week.
Yeah,
so they have to
acceptable.
Figure out a plan in less than a week to where they're going to be playing their games, and that's going to start hampering with travel issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the MLB schedule is super division based this season, and they only play I think 10 to 20 games outside of division. So these teams that are in Toronto's division aren't going to have to be traveling very far. Same with Toronto, but
this also ties into one of the funnier stories that I thought was honestly super clever. Is fans have been in a lot of cities. There are hotels that are elevated above the stadium, so if you get the right hotel room, you can look down and just watch the game. Yeah. So fans have just been buying out the hotel rooms in these stadiums for game days, and unfortunately, Toronto was one of the cities where people were doing that, so they've kind of wasted a little bit of money there. But I thought it was just super clever that they're like, hey, we can't go, but that doesn't mean we can't watch it live. We're just going to get a hotel room.
Yeah.
And honestly, sounds like a pretty good deal. It's like a few $100. It's a little more than like actually going to a game, but it's a real it's a good view. You get some nice seating. It's comfortable. You got all that.
Dude, I'm pretty sure Toronto's Rogers. I think that's called Rogers Field. I think is the Toronto.
Yeah, something like that.
But I think there is a hotel inside the stadium. I could be wrong about that, but still, that's kind of sick for that. I don't know if they were able to rent out those hotel rooms, but
I'm pretty sure they were. Because I'm fairly confident that's one of the ones they would have been renting out to watch the game, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, it's called Rogers Center. So Rogers Center.
Rogers must be big in Canada. What is Rogers?
I don't even know.
It's a cellular network. It's a cell phone network.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes a lot of sense
Comcast,
then.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Literally, there's a hotel inside the Rogers Center. It's literally inside of the stadium. You could watch the game from your bed or something.
Yeah, which is honestly that'd be one of the coolest ways to watch a game.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do that one day.
Dude, that's
but yeah, any other things you guys want to talk about before we move into our teams for today?
Not really. There's not a whole lot going on yet. I think everything's just kind of settling into place before we get a lot of news started.
We're just it's more anticipation than news right now.
Should we get?
All right, let's do our bet segment. Speaking of MLB, me and Marshall are finally betting on Big Four Sports, and we're both taking the same bet on the MLB because this is a really good one. DraftKings, which is where we tend to get our odds, is giving us boosted odds on any player in any MLB All-Star from 2019 to hit a home run on opening day. The odds are boosted from minus 10,000 to even odds. So bet $5 to make $5, and it's a. I'm not going to say it's a gimme because anything can happen, but this feels about as close to $5 as you can get.
This is as big of a gimme as we've talked about on this show so far.
Yeah. The max bet on that, by the way, for anyone who's interested in placing it, is $25. So if you want $25 almost free dollars, this is definitely something you should look into.
I mean, if you want any more confidence about this bet, just scroll through the 2019 All-Star rosters and see some of the names that pop up there, and you'll be like, okay, if none of these guys hit a home run on Thursday or Friday, then there is something going on because
something went horrible.
Dude,
definitely.
I would almost take this bet on Arenado to hit a home run in his opening day, let alone
yeah, it's even if you're just talking about the best players in the MLB, even odds feels good for one of them to hit a home run. So for just any one of them to hit a home run feels really good. So I like it a lot. And it's nice to be betting on MLB. We're betting on a Big Four sport finally. Yeah. But Zach has a more interesting bet that I liked a lot. So why don't you tell us about that one, Zach?
All right. So I went to the MLS, and I'm back on my parlay bullshit. So I got the San Jose, I believe, Earthquakes in a win, no draw. In a win, draw, no bet. My bad. So if they draw the game, I get my money back. And then I got in the later game tonight, Seattle and Vancouver, both the score, and the goals are over 2.5. And I think that's very plausible at plus 281. So
yeah, I mean, if they both score, if they both score and it's not a draw, then you're probably looking at 2.5. So,
yeah, I'm more worried about the first part of the bet. Is the Earthquakes
definitely
winning?
Yeah, still though plausible for
I think it's a good bet.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so as it stands right now, our charity pool, we will donate to the charity of the winner's choice at the end of the year. We all started with $5. So it started at $15, and we are up to $72.29. I've taken a pretty sizable lead in the last couple weeks just because these two have gone on some cold streaks, and I've been on a hot streak. So I'm at 51.59. 6-3 is my record. I've got one bet pending on a 3-episode hot streak. I want to say I feel good, but we're still so early in the year that I'm not all that confident. Anything could happen. The Big Four are just starting back up. But Zach is in second currently. He's sitting at 3-6 record, but $17.60 is his total. He's got one bet pending as well. He is on a 2-episode cold streak, but he's looking to snap that one this week. Marshall is bringing up the rear here. Just 2 weeks ago, actually, he was in first, so that'll show you how quickly things can kind of change. He's sitting at 3-5, $3.10. So he's actually the only one that, as we stand right now, has actually lost a little bit of money. But he has 2 bets pending. He's on a 3-week cold streak, and we've talked about our bet for this week, and it's a real good one. So I definitely think that he can snap that one this week and kind of get back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, real sports are coming back, so thank God I'm not betting on darts anymore.
And to be fair, Marshall lost out on that Usman bet from a couple weeks ago, where Zach and I both made $25, and Marshall couldn't quite get in because he didn't text me back fast enough. So gotta give him a little bit of a break there. But definitely, I'm feeling good about where we're at. You know, before we started this segment, I did have like this fear in the back of my mind that, you know, what if we do end up just losing money for the whole year? But as it's gone, we've been all right. We're not in danger of that happening, it seems.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Unless things start to go real bad real quick.
So let's get embarrassing. What do we do if we like have negative money and then we're like
we go to the charity of whoever lost the least money and we say, hey, actually you owe us $30 or whatever. It's like, we were gonna give you a donation, but we lost money, so you owe us money now.
Oh, poor charity. No, but
at that point you pick like a really bad charity though.
Yeah, true.
Like a charity that you don't believe in at all. Like someone who like supports, I don't know, whatever. Like an animal shelter that just euthanizes all the animals, and you're like, hey, you owe us money now. And you try and push them out of business.
Perfect.
That's what we're going to do.
Perfect.
So, we're going to move now into our deep dives. The Los Angeles Lakers are, you know, they're one of the best teams in basketball for a reason, and it starts at the top. You know, last week we talked about about the other LA team, the Clippers, and I said they have a case to be made for the best 1-2 punch in basketball. But the team that I think does have the best 1-2 punch in basketball is the Lakers with LeBron and AD, and that's really where it starts. What do you guys think? Zach, give us your initial impressions here.
Yeah, these guys are super deep. Picking up players like Danny Green from Toronto last year can only help them out from those perimeter shooting slots. I still think they're not as good as the Clippers. So if they want to beat the Clippers, they're going to have players like Kuzma, McGee, Howard. All these players are going to have to step up and play big roles without Rondo in there, breaking his finger or whatever happened to him. Still to this day, after what I saw from J.R. Smith, I do not have a lot of faith in that guy. Not at all. Yeah, their depth, it speaks for itself, honestly. They are a deep team as well. I don't know if they have the defensive players compared to the Clippers, kind of like that. What's his name? God damn it.
On the Clippers, Kawhi?
Yeah, no, the defensive guy. Pat Beverly.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have a Pat Beverly type player. So that's really going to hurt them in the long run here in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have to totally disagree with you. I think this team lacks depth, like, tremendously. Like, they do have the best 1-2 punch in basketball. And anytime you pair LeBron James with Anthony Davis, you are an automatic contender. But outside of that, Kuzma had an okay season. Danny Green had an okay, actually like a below-average season. They lost 2 of their biggest like depth pieces with Avery Bradley and Rajon Rondo. Right. They are picking up J.R. Smith, but he hasn't played a game of basketball in almost 2 years. This team is very thin outside of that, dude. Like, they have only 3 players averaging above 10 points, and one of them is Kyle Kuzma, just averaging barely over 10 points with 12.5. Outside of that, there are a bunch of guys that are just, like, barely scraping along, trying to pick up some points. So, yeah, I think that this team, the main difference for me and why the Clippers are the biggest contender in the league is just depth, and then also, like, Clippers don't necessarily have a terrible 1-2 punch, like, in their starting lineup either, so...
Yeah, I think kind of where the disconnect between you two is the kind of depth that they have. I feel like, Marshall, what you're right in saying, like, outside of their big 2, it falls off pretty hard, but they are pretty deep after it falls off. I feel like they've got 6 or 7 guys who can really contribute in a big way off the bench that just aren't quite kind of starter caliber guys. It's just that middle tier that they're missing. They've got a ton at the high end, and they're also, I feel like, very good in their kind of bottom tier players. It's just they don't have much in the middle.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you look at it like another contender out of the Western Conference that I called a pretender in the Denver Nuggets, they have 5 guys that are averaging more than 10 points a game, and then a lot of those
definitely.
bottom or middle road guys as well. Like they have a lot of guys that are averaging like 7 and 8 points as well. So I mean, just the depth of the Nuggets absolutely outperforms the Lakers in that aspect.
Right.
Whether or not a lot of these shooting opportunities are getting taken away by LeBron and AD is something to be said, and something to a fair case to argue about, or but I just don't really love the construction of this team. But
I can see where you're coming from, but I understand you don't like the. I got a question and a statement. First of all, they got LeBron James, and we've seen what LeBron James can do with a capable all-star in Cleveland, like what he did with Kyrie, when they're each scoring 40 points, and the depth doesn't really need to do anything but make stops, and I guess my question is, who is your number 2 in the West then? Is it the Nuggets or is it the Lakers?
No, it's the Lakers still.
Okay.
Just because of the LeBron James effect.
Okay.
I mean, I've said it before. In my personal opinion, I think LeBron James is the best basketball player in the history of the game. Saying that, I never did see Michael Jordan play. In my eyes, LeBron James is the best, probably, athlete that I've ever seen. Play any of the 4 major sports. So, anytime that you have an absolute all-time legend on a team, even at 35 years old, still is in the conversation for the MVP year in and year out, they're a contender, especially with Anthony Davis, another top 10 player in the league. It does just worry me about LeBron James's age, and if he can stay healthy. Anthony Davis has had some injury problems in the past. If one of those two goes out in these playoffs, there's just no hope for me.
I would agree.
I think that's a fair point. I think if one of them goes down, you're in trouble. Go ahead, Zach.
I would agree with that. If one of them goes down, it's definitely going to be an issue. But I think just a little to add on to the age debate a little bit, I feel like we've seen a trend, not just in sports, but in humans, that you're able to perform a little bit higher for a little bit longer. We've seen that kind of with Tom Brady. We've seen that kind of bit with LeBron James, compared to players from the 90s and the 80s. They are starting to play longer and perform longer at the highest of levels.
Well, yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not that
I will say LeBron last year looked like he had regressed a little bit, but part of that might have just been not playing on a great team.
Yes,
he was injured for a decent amount.
We'll have to see, injury. So he looked like maybe he had regressed a little bit, but this year he really shut up the doubters, and he looks like LeBron of old. So it'll be interesting to see if there is anything to that. Maybe what do we see the best of LeBron, or do we see maybe a little bit less? But even that is still one of the 3 or 4 best players in basketball today. So it'll be we'll have to see how that plays out. I think that we're going to get the best of LeBron, and I think that he's going to carry them at least to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, I would agree. They're the first seed in the West, and there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about having the best basketball player on the planet on your team, combined with another absolute superstar in Anthony Davis. But like I said, man, if one of those two goes down, it could be a disaster quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where we could see maybe a Denver Nuggets sneak in if something like that does happen, which will be interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Contender, pretender, guys?
I'm going contender. I don't think that there's much to debate about here. Whether or not you think they're the best team in basketball or even the best team in the West. they're definitely contending. They're a team that they're gonna make some noise. They're gonna, as long as everyone stays healthy, they're gonna make a fairly deep run. It would be pretty shocking if they didn't. So they're a contender for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely going contender. LeBron James, like I said, anytime you have him on your team, they're an automatic contender. And another thing, I think LeBron is getting hungrier and hungrier chasing these title runs because, 35, he probably still has, quite a bit left in the tank, but his quality chances are getting numbered here. So I think we're just going to see a hungrier LeBron James like we've seen in past, playoff runs.
What do you think, Zach?
I'm definitely going contender as well. I guess I didn't really touch on this when I was talking about the roster, but I have read a few headlines. Maybe the NBA is going to look at letting Avery Bradley into the bubble. So we'll see how that plays out. But even without him, I'd still have to say contender.
Boo, dude. Boo, Avery.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry. Sorry, but that's just a little bit annoying.
I agree.
Yeah. Which,
I mean,
I
that
feel like,
would be
I don't know if they will do it.
That would be a pretty significant pickup, to be honest.
It would be.
He's especially on the defensive side of the ball. He's a valuable part of that depth. So we'll have to see how that plays out. With Rondo going down, though, it's just very interesting. We'll have to see what's going on here.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the NHL, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are interesting to me because I feel like sometimes they get misjudged a little just because there's so much coverage on them.
Yeah.
Compared to any other NHL team, that some of their issues might be a little bit overblown or some of their strengths are a little bit exaggerated. But really where this team thrives is their high-end forward talent, where you've got, I think, the best 1-2 punch at center outside of Edmonton with Austin Matthews and John Tavares. You've got Mitch Marner coming off that wing is just a really one of my favorite wingers to watch in the NHL, as well as William Nylander, who has been bounced back pretty strongly this year. Maybe not the greatest season last year, but definitely playing like an elite winger this year. What do you guys think of the Leafs? Let's start with Marshall this time.
They are very hard to judge.
Right.
But like you said, their forward core is right up there with the Avalanche and the Lightning as far as, just absolute, all-time, talents. Maybe not all-time, but, with some of them, maybe, Matthews and Tavares and Marner, dude, you just have talent oozing on the forward side. But then where it gets a little bit interesting to me is defense, because their defense can put the puck in the net as well and help drive play with the best of them. But then in terms of defensive defensemen, it's pretty thin. It's pretty thin. And then going out and picking up Tyson Perry didn't necessarily help that in the offseason. An interesting thing to me, though, is if Anderson can stay healthy and kind of get back to the goalie that we've seen Anderson be before, and kind of get on a hot streak a little bit, and just they just outscore teams and have some help from Anderson on the back end, this could be a pretty dangerous team.
Yeah, this is a super dangerous team for sure. I just really, really do not like the way that Dubas has constructed this team for the future. Right now, this is a Stanley Cup contender. Their depth is crazy. Even Hyman on the third, fourth line with Kerfoot, those are pretty solid players.
Yeah.
Their defense is where it gets scary. Us being Colorado fans, we obviously loved Tyson Barrie when he was here, but we could see those defensive shortcomings.
Yes.
Especially, in closing minutes in the game, taking chances, pinching when he shouldn't. Things like that. It's things that an offensive defenseman want to do, which is his game, which is totally fine. But, they just do not have the defensive play. Jake Muzzin is absolute ass. I don't know what he's been doing. They got him to fill a role in the back end, and he has not done it moving over from LA.
Another
Yeah,
guy
this
that
is
had
He's
very
not been the
interesting
same
team.
without Drew Doughty.
yeah, another guy, Cody Cece has not been the
Mm,
same either. So,
That was just such a bad move, in my opinion,
yeah,
as well.
a couple guys that they brought in just really hoping to fill that, defensive game, and just haven't really been able to do it yet. They're relying on two of like the more like high octane defensemen or like offensive defensemen in the league to play more of a defensive game, and that's not necessarily worked out so far. One of those guys that I was talking about, Morgan Riley, didn't really have the best of years in comparison to his previous seasons. Last season, he started out like leading the NHL in points for a significant amount of time, and this season, not a terrible season, but only 27 points. You'd kind of like to see him put up some more points, especially, with the forwards that he has to pass the puck to. But that's my only gripe with this team is just the defensive side of the puck, really. I mean, there's no question that their forwards are
Yeah.
like,
And also, to me, this team has tremendous, Stanley Cup bust potential. Like, they could either go all the way or totally shit the bed. This is a team...
They could lose to Columbus.
Yes. On 100% they could lose to Columbus. This is a team earlier in the season going on like a 10-game losing streak. I remember because I follow TSN, and they were losing their shit.
mm-hmm.
And this is a team, obviously, they are just stacked down the middle. Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Kapanen, they are just stacked. Spezza, Tavares, holy shit.
Even Andreas Johnson, dude.
Yeah, even Andreas Johnson.
Yeah.
This is a team, for some reason, that has struggled to score at times, though. And it's just...
Yeah,
sometimes it's hard to imagine that being the case with the Leafs.
That's the part that's just baffling to me is
Mm-hmm.
how a team.
They're an underperforming team as well. This is a team that, especially at parts of the year, they were hot. When they were on, they were one of the best teams in hockey. But when they weren't on, they were one of the worst teams in hockey, and it was seriously in doubt whether this team would make the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing to say that.
There was still doubt,
all
dude.
The talent.
Yeah, I guess there still is.
well, I mean, before the season got suspended, there was a great deal of doubt that they would actually sneak into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for Leafs fans here, they're getting a second shot here, and dude, with this roster, I mean, and kind of just resetting from the last half of the season, they could seriously turn it around and be something like special here in the playoffs. But that's a big if, and this break is only going to benefit them or just exacerbate the problems that was already happening.
Right. They seem to have chemistry issues already, and not playing for a long amount of time is not going to help that. And this is just not a team. I know we don't touch on this much because this is our predictions, but this is a team, I just have to say it, this is a team that is going to get blown up in the future. Just their defense next year is going to be abysmal. Their forwards, they probably can't pay for the longest time.
Yeah.
They're going to have a abysmal bottom six. Is going to be really bad. And I'm not sure if the fans are ready for that kind of failure again.
And I mean, you're talking about, you mentioned the pay. Some of the contracts on this team, even for the best players, the
Even
one I
for
want to
Matthews.
talk about is Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is making $10.8 million on a 6-year deal. Mikko Rantanen hit free agency the same year. Their production is very similar. Mikko Rantanen has actually scored more goals, and Mikko Rantanen is making $9.25. So you're paying Mitch Marner $1.5 million more than Mikko Rantanen. I don't care. You cannot make the case that Marner's the better winger, but it's close. It's definitely close, and he is definitely not $1.5 million better. It's just they have not negotiated their contracts very well. Part of that is that they're in Canada, so they have to pay their players a little more because of taxes and all that. But
I just think
it's
Dubas
going to be
is
real hard to
a
keep
really
them together.
bad GM, in my opinion. He's constructed this team that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And he needs to win this year if he wants any dignity left.
Dude.
Yeah, and I mean, say what you want. He's a bad GM if they lose. If they win, then he's a good GM because he won a Stanley Cup,
They did it
But
right.
it's looking shaky. They've got some holes. And Zach, you've said it on past pods. It's a common expression, that defense wins championships, and this team defensively, defense is their weak point. Their defenders are forwards, basically, to an extent. So, really, their saving grace in that regard is Freddie Anderson. I love Freddie Anderson a lot. I think that he's going to have to step up big time, though, if they're going to make a deep run. He's got to make up for the fact that they don't have a ton on defense.
Right, and I know if people watched it, if Leafs fans watched this and commented, they would tell me that the contract coming up for the TV deal is going to boost the salary cap, and some of these deals are going to look good in the future, which we've already seen with William Nylander. His deal kind of looks decent now.
Yeah, it definitely.
Even though it looked like a severe overpayment at the time. So
but
I know that's what they're banking
on.
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. We don't know how this whole like COVID shit's gonna like impact the salary cap moving forward.
Right.
Yes, there are some like factors down the line with Seattle coming in and like new TV deals that could help boost some of the salary cap, but in the immediate future, it does not look like the salary cap is going to take any sort of
could
like,
just as easily stay flat for 3 years. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. One player we did talk about a little bit, but I want to talk about a little bit more is Kasperi Kapanen.
Yeah,
this is a guy that like I would love to have him on the Avs, and I think he fits in well on the Leafs as well.
Yeah,
the speed is just it pops off the screen. He's a guy that can finish as well, put up a few goals. You know, not exactly a star, but a very very valuable depth piece.
Yeah, he's a guy that I kind of wish, that Tyson Jost could kind of emulate to a sense, and be on that third line and just produce.
One thing about these forwards, just like looking through this, dude, they are still so young though. Like Matthews is only 21, Marner's 22, Nylander's 23, Kapanen's 23. Dude, like Ilya Makhayev's 24. They do have like,
and even Tavares isn't an old man. You know, he's in his later 20s, but
dude, no, still, and like he's locked in there for a while now. But yeah, there's gonna be some interesting negotiations that have to be going on.
Someone's gonna have to take a team-friendly deal, or because no one has yet. And it's
and nobody on the Leafs have set that precedent. We saw Marner hold out for as long as he did. Yeah. And he ended up getting kind of what he wanted.
Nylander held out even longer.
Yeah, Nylander didn't play half the season.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, this is definitely, they had some issues about what might be going on in the locker room a little bit early in the season.
Right.
And then there's guys that have taken a step back. Alex Kerfoot, the guy I loved in Colorado. And it just has not translated in Toronto.
Well, the thing is, I think he kind of gets buried a little bit there.
He does. That's fair. But still, even he's their 3C, and he was playing on the third line quite a bit in Colorado, maybe getting a little bit of second line time. But he's a grindy kind of guy. You love the work ethic. You love the dude, but he's had a down year, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to like an absolutely like catastrophic extent here.
He's still a very rosterable player, a good bottom six guy, but
right.
I think that Toronto was hoping for a little bit more when they got him in that Barry Kadri trade.
Yeah, they definitely were coming off a 42-point season. I'm sure they were looking for a little bit of an improvement on that.
I mean, but in a shortened season,
coming out with 28.
In a shortened season here,
it looks like he only played 10 less games than last season.
I mean, I guess it is a bit of a down year, but not like an absolute like out of the league down year. Like,
right?
Yeah, this guy's not falling out of the league by any means. But a guy of his age coming off the season that he did, you were hoping that he had a shot to maybe even elevate himself further to become really one of the best 3Cs in the league, or otherwise a second line kind of wing, and that's not what he did. He didn't crater, but he definitely didn't take a step forward.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But then, yeah, there's not really anything else I could say about Kerfoot. We already touched on it, but I did like the bounce back year that Nylander had. It's looking like that deal's going to turn out to be all right for Leafs. And he's a really exciting player to watch. I mean, he had 31 goals this year. That's pretty freaking impressive in 68 games played, so...
Yeah. All right. So I want to get into our verdicts here then. Let's start with you, Zach. What do you think?
This is one of the hardest ones I've had to do.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go just based off the star power they have. Actually, no. From the defense that they currently have rostered, I'm going to have to say pretender.
All right. I mean, that's fair enough. They're missing some. They've got some holes. What do you think, Marshall?
I'm going to say contender here. But it's a very thin line there. I'm very curious to see how this team looks with this huge break, whether or not it benefits them or just, like I said, exacerbates the problems that we already saw them having. But just with this offensive firepower and the depth on their offense, dude, and I feel like their defense is not too much different than Edmonton's defensive structure, although Edmonton does have a little bit more of defensive minded guys. Yeah, they're just a contender, but a very, very interesting,
very close, right on that bubble. Yeah, and I'm on the same page. I'm calling them a contender. They're towing that line real hard. If they could put it all together, throw all the talent together, get it really rolling like they are at their best, then this team really could make a cup run. They could be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league. They've got all the talent in the world. It's just what we've actually seen, and what we've seen is a playoff bubble team and one that really can't compete with the Bruins in the East or the Lightning in the East, and they're going to need to make that step. They're going to need to prove something. So they're a contender.
One thing,
but they could just as easily lose in the first round.
One thing that player that we did not touch on is Rasmus Sandin, only 19 years old.
Yeah.
If he could figure out how to step his game up just a little bit in this return to play format, he could be a pretty valuable aspect for them.
Yeah, definitely. You bring in a young guy, shore up one of their biggest weaknesses, and I think that would definitely help them a lot.
But yeah.
All right. Any last closing thoughts you guys have before we kind of get out of this episode?
Zach?
I'm feeling good on this one.
Doesn't
other
seem
than
like it.
Cale Makar for Calder.
Yeah, that's
Cale Makar for Calder. Watch our Abs pod where we made that case, and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to all the channels along the Off-Brand Network. We're all over the place now. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we're going to get out of here. We'll see you guys in our next episode.